Good morning, everybody. Thanks for bearing with us. I know we're a few minutes behind schedule here between getting a lot more snow dumped on us than the forecast said and scrambling with some technical issues. It's been an exciting morning here, but I think we're about ready to go. Um, so thanks to all of you who join us. Just a quick note so I don't forget. This webinar will be recorded and it'll be available on the Blandin Foundation website a couple of days following it here. So if you're trying to remember something you heard, or if you have colleagues in another organization that you think should know about this, or whatever that looks like, please let them know that this will be available on our website very soon. For some reason, my camera isn't working on the laptop, and I don't dare exit the meeting and try to get back in, given the challenges we had this morning. So we'll just go with the audio version of me this morning, and we'll dive right into the content here. So thanks again for joining us. I just want to mention briefly what we're doing here today. And so some things we want to cover in this webinar is give you a sense of just basic eligibility for the grant round, talk about some things where we want to prioritize and emphasize through this round of grants, a few general tips on how to have a look at this information and get a sense of if this really is a good fit and the right opportunity for your organization or community. And then we'll have some time for questions and answers at the end of it. With an eye to that, I just want to make sure you know that we aren't going to have nearly enough time, I'm sure, to answer all of the questions, but please do put your questions in the chat as we go. The ones we can't get to today, me and my program staff will try to answer offline. We can trade emails or have some phone conversation with you to get those answered so that you feel comfortable and equipped when the letter for inquiry phase opens in a few weeks here. So I just mentioned my squad here. We have our program staff in the grants program here with us this morning. And so I'll ask each of them to introduce themselves and tell just a little bit about who you are and where you're from, what you do here at the foundation, and maybe just share one thing you're excited about for this grant round. So Linda, you're to my right on the screen, so we'll start with you.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Linda Gibo. I live in Cohasset. I'm the Grants Program Officer for Small Communities. And one thing that I'm looking forward to is just learning about all the inspiring ideas across our small rural communities to move rural places forward. So just looking forward to that.
Great. Mary, over to you.
Hello, my name is Mary Magnuson, and I am the Grants Program Officer for Rural Placemaking. I'm originally from the Twin Cities area, lived up in Grand Rapids for over 20 years, and I'm actually back in the cities now helping with my mom. So I'm really excited to see what kind of projects that you have in store for us, and I just wanted to stress, placemaking, a lot of people think about the things, like the murals or the public art or whatever. I just want to stress that one thing that we want to see is how you engage people intentionally, including people that are often under represented in making these decisions. So, I just make sure that when you submit your letters of interest, you kind of include that piece also.
Perfect. Thanks, Mary. Matt?
Hey, everybody. Matt Hansen. I'm a grants program officer here, focusing on community wealth building. I'm in the Bemidji area, spent most of my life in rural Northwest Minnesota. And one thing that I really love about this grant round is, for me, given my background in rural nonprofit work, I feel like I really can relate to a lot of what all you are doing, and I just look forward to being able to support the projects that you've got going on.
Thanks, Matt. We have one more program officer, Luann Robinson, who is still experiencing some technical difficulties. So.
I'm here.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Great, Lou. All right. Good timing. It's your turn for an introduction.
Hi, everybody. Anin Boujou. My name is Luann Robinson. I've been with the foundation for a little over 6 years. Started out in grants management, and now I'm on the program officer side. Kind of in both rural placemaking and community wealth building. And what I'm excited for is just to see like what cool projects and what is going on out in rural Minnesota. So I'm really excited to see what's coming in, and just excited to see like how community cohesion happens when these projects are coming to us. And that's probably what excites me the most. So thank you.
Awesome. And I'm Kyle Erickson. I am the director of the grants program here. I've been with the foundation for a little bit less than 12 years now, about 10 of that as a program officer, and moved into the director role a little bit less than 2 years ago. And what I am most excited about for this grant round is seeing the big ideas that we love to see from small communities. For those of you who pay attention to data in the philanthropic and nonprofit sector, you probably know that not enough funders fund the beautiful, inspiring work that you all carry out in rural communities. And the best way that we, as one of the leading rural foundations in the state, can help make the argument for more investment in rural communities is just to show other funders, public sector funders, private philanthropy, individual donors, the wonderful success stories that come from the work that you carry out, fueled by our grants, but ultimately executed by the leaders in your towns, in your communities, in your nonprofits, who care so much about the beautiful rural places that we live in. So with that, and fingers crossed for no more technical glitches, I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll walk through some information about this upcoming grant round. How are we doing so far? Can everybody see that? Hey, success. Okay, so I know we're a little bit behind schedule already, or maybe a medium bit. So I'll go through this quickly in order to respect everybody's time, but I do want to ground all of this conversation really briefly in the mission, vision, and values of Blandin Foundation, just to remind everybody, why is Blandin Foundation here? What do we care about? How do we make decisions about the projects that we fund and the work that we do? So just a brief reminder, this is our mission. I won't read it to you because I'm sure you all can do that. But I will just zoom in a little bit on the part that talks about inspiring resourcefulness and moving rural places forward. We know that rural places are full of can-do people. Again, this is why it really just bugs me that there isn't more investment in rural, because we know we have very talented, capable leaders. You know what your community needs. You've got ideas for how to get there. You have the resourcefulness. And so that's really, if you think about mission and values as the first screen for how Blandin Foundation makes decisions about what projects we fund, always keep this in mind and think about, how does the project that you're pitching to us acknowledge and capitalize on the resourcefulness that you have in your community and support your ability to move communities forward even through really challenging times. Our vision speaks to the kind of overarching goal that I'll talk about in a little bit about Blandin Foundation's kind of our perpetual high-level goal is to build thriving communities that work for everybody and to reduce persistent disparities that too often fall along the lines of race, place, and class. These are our 4 core values. We genuinely do love rural. We are all, even though Mary has relocated to the Twin Cities for now, Mary loves rural. We are all rural people. We care about this work deeply. We want to be with you as we work to create positive change in challenging circumstances and in better times too. And with a nod to what Mary said about the placemaking work and thinking about, how do you engage community? How do you think about placemaking as a process, or wealth building as a process, not just an individual product or project? We always want to be planting seeds for the future and helping your community grow in ways that will help you become more resilient, more sustainable, and help you live into the vision that you have for your communities. So real briefly, the best guidance for you here is to go to Blandin Foundation's website at blandinfoundation.org. We've got quite a bit of information up there about our wealth building, placemaking, and small communities programs. So I won't dive into the details of it there, but just a reminder that when we went through our strategic refresh over the last handful of years, those are the 3 grant making focus areas. And again, mention that we do have this high level goal of making sure that we're supporting communities that work for everybody, not just for a few people, and that the projects we fund should be seeking to reduce those disparities. General eligibility stuff is also available on the website, so I won't dive in a lot now. The one thing that two things I guess that I want to call attention to here is there's something like 40 different definitions of rural when you think about like federal grants and stuff. Rural to us, the rule of thumb we use is that we support projects in communities with a population of under 20,000, but we recognize that our smaller communities, especially the more isolated ones, face an additional set of challenges. They tend to have less access to foundation and other funding. And so we really try to emphasize getting resources into towns of under 5,000, knowing that they just have not historically been served well by systems. And so we want to do our part to address that. And just a note that through this grant program, typical award sizes are going to be between $25,000 and $150,000. Grants smaller than that, we don't see very often. Grants larger than that, we can entertain. So if you have a project and you'd like to ask us for more than $150,000, feel free to do that in your letter of inquiry. Letter of interest, team, where did I can never remember. Letter of, what's the I?
Inquiry.
Letter of inquiry. We're going with letter of inquiry. Please send us a letter of inquiry that speaks to what you need. Just know that if it's a larger project, because we do have our own budget constraints, we can't do as many of those, and they may need to follow a different process and timetable. But if you feel like you've got a project that really aligns well with one of our focus areas, even if it's a larger one, go ahead and send it in to us. And again, there's more information. There's a link on our website that'll have detailed info on the eligibility piece. Jot these down, take a screenshot, focus deeply and memorize whatever works best for you here. These are the key dates that you'll need to know for the Rural Grand Round. We have a 2-stage process. The first stage is a pretty light touch letter of inquiry that'll open. There'll be a link that goes live on our website on April 1st. I promise that's not an April Fool's joke. That you will give us a sketch of what is the project, who will it involve, how do you see it fitting in supporting with one of our grant making focus areas, and just some kind of essential information to give us a sense of what you're after and help us narrow the funnel a little bit to the second stage, where we wish we could fund all of the great projects we see, but due to time and money and other constraints, we can't fund all of them. So we'll select a subset of the LOIs that we receive, invite full proposals for those on April 24th. You'll have a little bit less than a month to put that together. Proposals due on the 15th, and then we'll have decisions on the awards ready in June. I recognize that that's not a huge stretch of time for a full proposal. If some of you have filled out state or federal grant proposals or maybe from some other foundations, but I want to reassure you that we've done a lot of work over the years to streamline our grant proposal format. It is not going to be some huge onerous, it's going to take you 50 hours of people power to put it together. We do want you to be thoughtful, to give us the information that we need to make informed decisions. But it isn't something that it should feel like an unmanageable thing for you, even if you haven't ever written a grant proposal before. So what are some things we're looking for in this? I was a development director for 10 years before I came over to the foundation. And when I would sit in on informational calls for funding opportunities, this was always the one that I paid the most attention to. What is, sorry, I saw a cattail or something peek up on Matt's screen. What are we looking for through this? Hi, Kitty. Knowing that we don't have the resources to fund everything, We have to narrow the funnel a little bit, and within the strategies that we've carved out, we have a list of some project types that we want to emphasize through this opportunity. So within the placemaking program, we know that it's always been true that humans are social animals, right? We do best when we feel connected, when we feel cared for, when we feel part of a community. We know that rural communities, again, tend to have less access to construction capital, money for renovations, this sort of things. And so this is part of a multi-year effort where we have intentionally invited in projects to create and support welcoming, inclusive community spaces. Sparking civic joy is out of the list. This is the one that maybe feels a little bit less defined, but no less important. We know that there's a lot of pressure on rural communities now. There's economic pressure. We have been through a period of social division in a number of different ways. And again, we know that we do best and that rural communities thrive the most when people feel connected and can work past differences and pitch in to take advantage of the unique sense of place that rural communities have. And so we want to support projects that spark joy, and this can involve anything that actively engages people in civic life, that invites people into more full participation in community. Mary, as the keeper of the placemaking program, has some good language around that. So if you have questions about if a project is or isn't a fit with this, Mary will be your best person to ask. One note on this is we tend not to fund ongoing community events. Not that they're not important or valuable, but what we're trying to do through these programs is to catalyze new and growing thinking, to create capacity that doesn't already exist in rural communities, or to build on things. So that is, we tend not to fund the recurring events just because we know they're recurring, so they tend to be able to get by without us. That said, if you have a community event where you feel like you're ready to make a really big leap forward with it and add new cultural content, or engage community in a new and different way to improve accessibility or participation, or that it can lead to different and better community conversations because of it, feel free to send us an LOI for that. Under the wealth building banner, we know that rural Minnesota, like most of the nation, is really struggling to create enough affordable and workforce housing. We don't have the budget to invest in individual housing projects that communities need. So what we really care a lot about is helping to equip communities with a good basket of tools that will support and enable them to accelerate development of affordable housing within them. So this could be planning and creating and capitalizing a local housing trust fund. It could be designing or learning about how to build or add to a community land trust. It could be if your town or county doesn't have a recent housing study to help get your arms around what is the need, what is the opportunity, what is the housing mix that you need. We can support any of those tools that help build the sort of the ecosystem around housing that people can afford at wages that you have available in your communities. We know that, as you are all aware, that we're in the midst of this huge generational wealth transfer. I saw a data point recently. We're just in Itasca County alone, where we're located, over the next decade or so, about $500 million is going to change hands as the boomers make their estate plans, and people who are retiring or who leave this world are making plans for where these assets go. And a really core pillar of our community wealth building work is to give rural communities the capacity that they need to make sure that wealth that was created and generated in rural communities can stay rooted there. So for community foundations that are really trying to emphasize this, for nonprofits who are interested in developing or strengthening planned giving programs, for communities that want to get their arms around how do we plan for this, And how do we make sure that this once and kind of forever opportunity where unprecedented community wealth is going to change hands, that you feel equipped to capture as much of that as you can so it can continue to serve you and your communities for generations to come. And then we want to invite projects in that emphasize resilient local and regional food systems. Another really core part of community wealth building work is helping people move from participating in the economy just through employment to finding ways to transition into ownership. So this could look like cooperative business development or worker co-ops. It could look like a capacity building project to help knock down capital barriers to accessing land or equipment for emerging growers and producers. Those of you working in that space, you know what the work looks like. You know what the needs are. And so we just wanted to call that out as something that we feel is really important right now. And just one final note again to reiterate on this. These are the types of projects that we, based on feedback from rural communities, based on our own internal conversations and learning, intend to prioritize in this grant round. If after going through the information on our website about our 3 focus areas, if you feel like you have a really good project that is very well aligned with what our programs are trying to do and it doesn't fall into one of these areas, please feel free to still send us your LOI. Even if it isn't something that we can fund this time around, learning about what you're working on and what your communities value helps us spot trends in rural communities. It helps us see things that really are strategically aligned with what we're doing, and maybe we just weren't aware of the level of need in rural communities, and it can really help us sharpen and improve our work without blurring the lines of our strategies and learning more about how we can best support rural communities over time. Here's a short list of things to please make sure that you're attending to and some other considerations that we make. Do note that first point is that we care deeply about making sure that rural Minnesota has equitable access to Blandin Foundation funding. We know that there are a lot of organizations that we have funded that are doing wonderful work. And again, like to my previous point, if you have recently completed a grant with us, or if you have an active grant, you can still feel free to send us an LOI. And it's not that we're not going to look at funding it. We just want to make sure that we're giving all of rural Minnesota who has projects that align with our mission and strategy and values a chance at funding. So we do want to emphasize or prioritize getting funding to organizations who we haven't been able to support as recently. Again, to Mary's comment about authentic community engagement and activating people in civic life, we love to see collaboration. We love to see public, private, and nonprofit partnering. We know that even in smaller rural communities, it really does take a village to create change. And the better buy-in you have across those sectors, the more likely that your project is going to be not just to be successful short term, but to take root and create lasting change for your community. The fourth one down there, this is maybe more for the full proposal part than for the LOI, but one of the key lenses that we use for making decisions on what do we invite full proposals for, what do we end up funding, is a really clear statement of the impact that you believe the grant will help to catalyze in your community. So when we talk about goals and when you're pitching your project through the LOI, and if you're invited to submit a full proposal, think of goals not in terms of activities or the things that you do along the way throughout a project. Think of goals in terms of what is the change that you want to create in your community? What do you want to be different and better in your community, in your organization, in your region because of this work? And then you can tell us about how you think you'll get there. But ultimately, what we're all after, funders, nonprofits, community leaders, what we're after is positive change, increased resilience in rural communities. And so that really should be the focus. And then you can work backwards from your statement of goals. do be honest about the difficult stuff. If all of this were easy, we wouldn't need foundations. We wouldn't need all this work. If change were simple and easy, we would be having very different conversations. And when you're pitching an idea, when you send us a proposal and you acknowledge the challenges that are in the system, structural challenges, funding challenges, needing to find new ways to activate community and engage volunteers, whatever it looks like. If you are really honest with us, both about the positive stuff, the impact, the energy, and about the challenging stuff, that helps us feel comfortable that you really understand the context that your organization, your community exists in and is working in. And we ask for that not to be Big Brother looking over your shoulder, but so that we can help connect you, if it makes sense, to other resources, so that we can be thinking partners and troubleshoot things, so that we can identify ways through Becky Adams, our colleague, runs our community building program, and Jennifer Bevis runs our advocacy function. So we can think about how those programs can complement the grant program in different ways to help communities get through the stuck spots and get to the impact that we all want to see. A few things to please don't do. We do not want to see mission creep. It's not good for you. It's not good for us. If you don't have a project that you feel really is pretty squarely aligned with one of our grant making focus areas, it doesn't mean it's not a great project. It just means that it's not our project. So in the interest of making sure that your scarce time and energy is guarded, and that we can focus our energy on the ideas that are best aligned with what we're trying to do here, please take note of that, and know that we are always here for rural Minnesota. It's in our DNA. There will be other grant rounds in the future, where we'll have different points of emphasis within our strategies. So please do give that honest consideration. We are here to support. We can't tell you what project to send us or how to word it, obviously, because we have to evaluate these. And if we're evaluating our own thinking, it's pretty hard to be objective. But we do want to be here to help you understand process. If you are having difficulty with one of the forms or aren't sure what we're looking for with one of the questions, you've met the program staff here. You can feel very, very free to reach out to them or to Christy, our grants management associate, and we will help get you through whatever question you have about that. One thing that we have really learned in the first couple of years of executing our new strategies is that in the environment we're in, especially if your project involves construction or renovation or hiring staff, it takes longer than we're used to. And we have had to do so many grant extensions in the last couple of years, just because we're kind of all grappling together with some new realities. So don't rush it. We can make grants that last for up to 3 years. Be realistic about what is the timetable going to look like, so you don't feel pressured to kind of rush through the work, and so that you can execute your project once it's funded in the best way possible. And the last note, unfortunately, is we get a lot of questions about this. We just don't have the resources. And actually, in Charles Blandin's documents founding the foundation, he talks about how he didn't want his foundation to fill in responsibilities that really should be public sector responsibilities. So while we acknowledge that changes in federal and state funding flows are very challenging for our rural communities, we unfortunately cannot backfill funding that has been lost or pulled away. But what we do want to do, again, is to help you build capacity, to improve your resource development, to do really good planning and execution and internal capacity building so that you can make the most of what you have. I didn't quite get us back on schedule, but I got as close as I could. Hopefully that wasn't too rapid fire for everybody, but that touches on the main points that I wanted to go over for this. And Jennifer or Mary, do we have any questions that have been posed in the chat?
No, nothing yet, but folks are certainly welcome to put them there now if they would like. And as Kyle said, if you think of them afterwards, certainly get in touch with Kyle or our grants team.
Oh, Kyle,
Yep.
can we submit more than one LOI?
Oh, that's a really good one. Qualified, yes. So just a little context for what these statewide rounds look like. Our last statewide round that we ran in 2024, we received almost 350 inquiries for about $65 million in funding, which of course kind of swamps our system. So I don't want to actively discourage and miss a good idea. But what I would rather see is if an organization, if you have a couple of ideas, really dig into the information that we have on our website. Think about what we said we want to emphasize in this grant round. You can ask some questions of our program staff, and my preference would be to have you pick the one that you feel like is the strongest fit and will have the most impact, excuse me, for your community or your region. And just know that with our ethos of wanting to equitably share funding across rural Minnesota, it'll be tough for us to fund more than one project to the same organization. But if you have two ideas and you think, well, geez, these are both really good placemaking or wealth building, we've got this beautiful small community, and you just can't decide, you can send us both. Just know that it'll be very unlikely that we would be able to support both projects. Good question.
Kyle, the second question, can we ask for operating expenses to help keep a program going?
So much in the world of philanthropy is it depends. Our priority, the charge we've been given by our board and by our staff leadership is to build capacity to plant seeds for the future. So that is where most of our resources are going to go. We recognize that we are in a very, very challenging time right now. And if you have a program, a project that really is just doing bullseye placemaking or wealth building work, and you know that without some support, it is probably going to wither and go away, you can send us an operating request. Again, understand that is not going to be our highest priority, but we acknowledge that this is a really difficult time for nonprofits, especially in rural communities. And so we can take a look at that. If that's something that you're planning to do, what I would encourage you to think about is to think about the goal and community impact piece in a really keen way, and think about what is the difference that making sure that this project or program continues is going to create in your communities that really strongly advances Blandin Foundation's mission and strategies, that aligns with your organization's mission and strategic plan, and will do the most good for your community. So again, I don't want to say a categorical no to it, because we do recognize that we're in kind of different times right now. But just know that we try to prioritize the kind of capacity building projects that, knowing that we'll face other difficult times down the road, will help your organization or your community be able to more effectively weather those challenging times.
Kyle, one other question, and I'm just going to put out a final call. We'll answer this one, and then if there's one additional.
Okay.
The question is, do you have a threshold for current revenue and or size of the applicant organization?
These are really good questions. Thank you for those. We do not. We care very, very deeply about meeting rural Minnesota where you are. And this shows up in terms of the organization size that we fund. Each year, we make some grants to startup or newer nonprofit organizations that have really strong leadership and have identified innovative ways to address rural needs and opportunities. And we make grants to much larger, regional hub organizations because we know that they can be really important nodes of capacity for rural communities. So there's no minimum or maximum revenue or staff size threshold for it. What we would ask of you is to really be thoughtful about the capacity of your organization and everything that you're encountering right now, and think about sizing your request in a way that it's not going to overwhelm your systems. I have seen nonprofits kind of grow themselves to death by being in a really good way ambitious about what they want to do, but doing programmatic or other growth at a rate that their internal systems and staff capacity really can't support. So your organization, your communities, just be thoughtful about that and try to make sure that thinking about a couple of slides up, shoot for ambitious but realistic is a good frame of mind for this. And one other note on that too, because we do get asked this sometimes, we absolutely can and do fund grassroots work that is executed through fiscal sponsors. We have some information available about how that process should look and some things that you would need to attend to with the organization who would sponsor your work that are very important to think about. And the main thing that I'll mention is that we don't like doing fiscally sponsored work where it's just a way to pass money through to an organization that isn't incorporated as a nonprofit. We really want to make sure the fiscal sponsor is aligned in their mission and in their work with the work that they would be sponsoring, so that it can add value to it. It can be helpful in building capacity for the community, and so that it really becomes a partnership project and not just a legal mechanism for getting money from point A to point B.
All right, Kyle, I'm going to read out one last question. I know there's 2 additional that are in the chat, and I will make sure that our grants team follows up with those after the session is done today. Final question. Can you explain how the multi-year grant making works? Would that also segment the funding or just provide more time to execute more complicated projects?
Typically, if we make a multi-year grant, the funding gets parceled out year by year. There have been, I'd struggle to think of more than 1 or 2 instances where we had a multi-year grant and all of the money went out the door really early in it. There have been just a couple, but typically where we make multi-year grants, it's because there's sort of an arc to the work, and year 1 will be maybe energizing community, pulling stuff together, doing planning and design, and then the second year is implementation. Or it might just be a more complex project where the programmatic work is going to take 2 or even 3 years to really get executed and rooted in community, so that it has a chance to stick and live for the longer term if that's its intent. So that's a quick sketch of how we think about the multi-year funding.
Great. That's all the questions that I'm seeing in the chat. So I think we're ready to wrap things up. Kyle, if you have any final comments or anything like that.
Thank you, Jennifer. Just a note of appreciation for all of you who showed up and took the time to be with us today. A note of gratitude for being patient while we worked through a little technical glitches, and an encouragement, as I mentioned at the top of this, where if you know another rural organization or another rural community that you think, man, I know they've got some stuff going on that would be a great fit for this, please share it out for them. We are not trying to create a Hunger Games environment where rural communities are fighting with each other over funding. We truly believe in collaboration, in generosity, in deep partnering. And again, we are here in perpetuity for rural Minnesota. If we can't get to all the projects we would like to fund in a given round, we'll still be here. We'll be doing this work again next year. And so we really look forward to seeing the best ideas that our wonderful rural leaders have to pitch to us. So thanks again.